So this is the challenge. In the next 40 years, we have to produce as much food if we're going to avoid malnutrition, stunting, etc., as we have in the last 8,000 years. And we have to do it on a single planet. In fact, right now, we're living at about 1.5 planets, our research shows, which means we're living beyond the carrying capacity of the Earth. If we were bankers, that would mean we're living off the principal, but as farmers, it means we're eating our seed. And we can't do that for very long without having trouble. We are literally eating the planet. Agriculture is the biggest environmental problem on the planet today. Habitat loss, soil erosion, water use and effluents, greenhouse gases, agrochemicals. Agriculture leads in all these impacts. And those are the problems with the current population. But by 2050, we're going to increase by 3 billion people, and they're going to have 2.9 times as much income each. They're going to consume about twice as much as they do today. The estimates are about 80% more food that we're going to need. And by 2050, there are going to be as many people living in cities as there are today. Now, cities can produce a lot of nutrients, and I think you'll probably hear about that later, but cities can't produce many calories. The other thing that's going on here that we need to be aware of is today half of farmers can't feed themselves. And with current trends, by 2050, 3/4 of farmers won't be able to feed themselves and their own families. So who are going to feed these cities? We've got to intensify agriculture, but we've got to do it sustainably. So we can't do everything. We need to focus. The organization I work for, World Wildlife Fund, has figured out that there are 35 places around the planet that are the most important for us to work on. And these 35 places are affected or threatened by 15 commodities. And these are the commodities. They're mostly agriculture, fisheries, aquaculture, and forestry. But each of these commodities has value change. And the question is, do we want to work with 6+ billion consumers to affect the way they buy products? Do we want to work with 1 billion producers? Or do we want to work with the 300 to 500 companies that buy and sell each of these commodities? We think that the 300 to 500 companies is the most direct route to affect change on the planet. If we can shift 25% of demand, we can shift 40 to 50% of production as producers compete to sell into those markets. So getting companies to buy better, to buy more sustainable, to buy against third-party certified standards, that's how we've decided to move forward. These are some of the companies that we work with on each of these commodities, but as we lined our companies up, what we found is that you start seeing the same companies show up under each of the commodities. Our initial estimate was that 100 companies actually control 25% of all 15 of the commodities that we care about. But as we've signed MOUs with these companies and started to work with them, we've signed agreements with about 40 companies so far. We're in process with another 40 companies. What we now realize is that only 58 companies control 25% of all 15 of these commodities. So we can affect 58 companies. We can't just work with individual companies, though. One by one is not going to get there fast enough. We need to work with sectors. We need to work with entire value chains. We need to work with industries. One of the groups that we're working with is the Consumer Goods Forum. This is a group that represents about 400 companies, the world's largest retailers and brands, and they've recently announced, 22 of them have announced and formally committed to eliminating deforestation from their supply chains. And they're going to work on 5 commodities: palm oil, soy, beef, pulp and paper, and timber. And by 2020, they will take deforestation out of their supply chains, beginning with Indonesia and Brazil. So this is how we freeze the footprint of agriculture. We don't want any more habitat conversion. We want to double up production on all the resources we use today, more per acre of land, more per liter of water, more per every input that we use. That's how it's going to have to work. Right now, it takes 1 liter of water to produce 1 calorie of food on average on this planet. We need to cut that in half in terms of the use of water and double the amount of calories. That's a good start. And then we need to increase that tenfold. The same with land. We need to look at which crops produce more calories per acre, which less. Today, 60% of all the land on the planet is used to produce 1.3% of the calories. It's called beef. It's not a very good proposition. It's a very inefficient way to produce animal protein. We need to at least reduce by half the amount of land and double the amount of production. And even then, there are probably other ways to do it better. There's been a lot of discussion in this conference about competitiveness and innovation. But I would like to suggest that at a planetary level, sustainability is a pre-competitive issue. We need to work together. No company, no government, no NGO is big enough to solve this problem by themselves. Thank you.